Darkwoods is now in rank, or it might be soon depending on when you watch this video. Let's take a look at this distinctive map that's quite different from its initial release, starting with the names of each location. In the northwest corner we have Bonfire, featuring a striking bonfire and a Dream Witch Easter egg. I've nicknamed this area Cages due to the abundance of previously cages that are scattered around, helping you pinpoint your location within that area quite easily. This region also boasts an exit gate and numerous rocket chairs. Directly in the north of the map we have the beginning of the riverside area that has an ominously green river flowing from the outside of the map. This river used to give you a slowdown status effect when you went through it, but that has since been removed, so you can frolic in the green goo to your heart's content. One of the issues with the riverside area is that it's quite big, so I have coined the area name Tree Houses to delineate the dense tree area with the swings between treehouse platforms. The next area is the east of the map that, although it has a ton of features, does not actually have an official name at all. I've always called this area Walls, but this area could also be called Windows and Walls because there are so many of them there. It also has the second exit gate, thus we can call the first one Cages Exit Gate and the second one Walls Exit Gate. In the southeast we have the so-called campsite with some interesting pallets and some cool looking saws. You will also find the second treehouse area of the map named Treehouse Checkpoint. In the south of the map you can find a curious area with high wooden fences and a couple of interesting pallets. This area will often have survivors shed or decoding in it, so remember the name Animal Shed. Now in the southwest you will find what the map has called Hunter's Cottage, although I usually call it Gamekeeper's Shack. If you want to find out why I call it like this, then you should check the video that's up here somewhere. This building is absolutely massive and has some great places for you to loop around. And just behind the shack area, you'll find another small walled area. I just call this area behind Gamekeeper's Shack. Transitioning slightly to the north of this shack, you'll find the one-of-a-kind log swing. It is exactly that, a swing that you can use to kite or chase, but what you might not know is that you can just drop off at any point you want, and you don't need to risk using the swing. Oh, and how can we forget the middle of the map named Centerfield? This area used to have a lot more features to it, but since then it's just become a great transition area between multiple sides of the map, so yeah. Nothing too exciting there. Before we start talking about dungeon spawns and basement, I want to quickly touch on the survivor and hunter spawns. There are 5 possible spawn groups for this map that only matter if you're a rank player that's in a lower tier, of course, because in higher ranks you get to select your spawn point, right? The first one is when the hunter spawns near Treehouse Checkpoint. This seems to put survivors at Walls and Gamekeeper's Shack the most in danger. The second spawn is when the hunter spawns in the Bonfire area. This puts Centerfield and Treehouse spawns the most at risk. The third one is when the hunter spawns in the Treehouses area. Generally, nobody is really more at risk here as the survivors are quite evenly fanned out in front of the hunter. The fourth spawn is when the hunter spawns in Gamekeeper's Shack. The survivor that's in Centerfield is most at risk as far as I can tell. And the fifth spawn is when the hunter spawns in Walls area. Again, nobody is more at risk here, although you may notice that survivors are quite bunched together. It's time to talk about the main locations that you want to check for dungeon. There are 4 total spawns for dungeon. The first spawn is quite memorable, just on the shore of the river, right next to where the river flows off the map in the north. Another dungeon location is quite nearby, to be honest, where by following the river along and reaching near the end, you'll find a staircase on your right. Just there, right next to the staircase, is another possible dungeon spawn. Moving down to the very south of the map, we find the next dungeon spawn, and this is in the Animal Shed area. There are some really nice pallets in this area, so you are able to kite a little bit longer if you need to wait for that dungeon to spawn, or to open at least. And last, we have the potential spawn of dungeon behind Gamekeeper's Shack. This is the furthest removed location dungeon could spawn at, and it isn't very often that survivors will even go in that area, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to come across it by accident. What you probably do want to look out for the most are the basement locations. The first spawn is incredibly close to the second dungeon spawn I mentioned earlier, located just underneath the southernmost treehouse in the riverside area. The second and only other potential spawn is all the way in Gamekeeper's Shack, and it's much more difficult to rescue from, but can offer you a strong rebound kite if you can get out of there, as there's a really strong window. You may have noticed by now that this map has an absolute ton of drop down spots, be it the 2 drop down locations in the Gamekeeper's Shack, the multiple drop downs in the treehouse area, and the additional drop down areas in the Treehouse Checkpoint, and finally the log swing. If you plan on playing a character that benefits from dropping down from great heights, then this map is definitely a great one for you to play on. Another interesting feature this map has that we need to talk about are the swings. The mechanisms involved in this have changed quite a lot since its first release, and according to the Identity V fandom wiki, survivors have a limited amount of energy that they can use to swing, and must wait at least 30 seconds before being able to swing again once their energy has been exhausted. You can also not swing when affected by tide turner, so keep that in mind. It's the same as Moonlit River Park's roller coaster. Hunters, on the other hand, can swing as many times as they want, apparently, but they do it a little bit slower than the survivor does. Whilst in a swinging animation, hunters and survivors can be affected by different abilities, such as Gamekeeper's hook or maybe Enchantress's stun. Gamekeeper's hook will terror shock you as a survivor, and Enchantress's stun will just put you to whichever side you were closest to. So if you were stunned closest to the beginning of the swing, then you'll just teleport back. Suffice to say, this is an extremely cool map to play on, and it will take some time for you to get used to it. I can expect that the map will probably receive some more balance changes in the future, so keep an eye out for that because some of this information might get a little old. This map also has some very interesting features you might have missed, so check this video out over here to learn more about some of the interesting things that you might find there.